Board games, board games. I might be talking about it. Board games, board games, but I'm not gonna shout. I am starting off this streaming with a little bit of singing, and I had an idea. I might share it with ya, and I'm going to, after I sing, talk about this idea, which I hope might bring joy and happiness and excitement and stuff. But anyway, board games, it's what I'm talking about. Board games, I'm not gonna shout. Hello and good morning, good afternoon, good whatever it is, wherever you are. I am Bez and this is Bezzy Beats and Briefer Bleder. And a quick hello to Jess. It is lovely to see you. I hope that you're generally well. Today I am talking about an idea. So, yeah, my idea is basically to do a Kickstarter, which is literally 0% done. So I don't mean that I will have the idea of what the game is and then I'll start working on the game. I mean that I literally won't even know what kind of game it is. Like, imagine a Kickstarter where I say, okay, let's work together on this Kickstarter, and maybe it'll be a social deduction game, maybe it'll be a game about lying, maybe it'll be a game about throwing things, maybe it'll be a game about literally running around a table, I don't know, maybe it'll be a game about choosing cards and making strategic choices, maybe it'll be a quick game, maybe it'll be like a speed game, maybe it'll be a cooperative game or a competitive, I don't know. But what if I started a Kickstarter and it was 60 days, deliberately very, very long, the longest it can possibly be. And for the first week, I'm just saying, okay, please send me your ideas and let me brainstorm what these things are. And then by the end of the 60 days, so over the course of these 60 days, I would make the game. That's my idea. And yeah, I wanted to talk about that. I wanted to share it with you. I wanted to see what you would think. And thank you very much. But first of all, let's talk about recent highlights, living life and seeing the sights, recent highlights, playing games and other delights, recent highlights. So yes, yesterday I signed myself up to yoga. I'm quite excited about that. After I went for a walk, so I did my stream, then I had a bit of a walk. I think I walked for about an hour, and then as I was walking back home, I was like, oh, this so-called bind yoga, what's going on there? And then the people were doing some sort of bar, like ballet. It was really interesting. And then I just saw through the window, I thought, I wonder what their prices are like. I looked online, they've got a special discount if you sign up for the first time. They're trying to encourage people to go. So it was like 30 quid for, I think, 3 weeks, and you can go as much as you want. I took advantage of that, even though I'll be moving away very soon. Yep, that's well worth it. I ended up going yesterday evening, and it was a lovely chilled, and I went this morning at 7. I woke up super early. I saw a beautiful sunshine, and I slept well. Warm bed, which is, I'm not in my bed right now. I'm kind of on top of it. I've dressed and stuff. But yeah, just a lovely warm bed, and then going back, and then I did find the yoga a little bit simpler compared to more yoga, but it was really good, solid, and there was a little bit of the spiritual aspect also shared about, reminding us that we are all together, that we're all as one, focusing on our connections to the things in the world around us. And so those were my achievements: doing the yoga again, and making an update for a game about wee whimsical creatures and trying to identify them after someone makes noises. And so many lovely things that I could talk about. I could talk about the weather. I could talk about having a roof. I could talk about having a hot shower. Just before this stream, I had a lovely hot shower, and razor blades again, and all sorts of things. But yes, those are my highlights. And hello, Corey. I hope that you're generally well. And let me ask you, what are your highlights? Have you played any good games recently? What have you been up to? And whilst you're pondering that, feel free to type up whatever you want. I'm going to open it up to questionably quick questions is the next section. It's not an interrogation. It's just a questionably quick question section. So anything you want to ask, please go ahead and ask or share whatever right now. And I'm going to say that's a brilliant thing. Brilliant thing. What's a little thing which is brilliant? Brilliant thing is involving other people. Inspired by my main topic today of making a Kickstarter that's 0% done, I want to talk about why is that worth doing? What's the point? Well, I think that for me at least, the reason I make games is that I want to make things that resonate with people. I mean, I love playing music, but sure, sometimes there's joy in just playing on the piano and then you kind of play something and then you have something in your mind and then your fingers move, or maybe on a trumpet your lips move and then you hear it. It's like it's now become a reality, and that's pretty cool. And you could say a similar thing with game design. You try things and then you just make things happen and then they come to reality, and then sometimes when you're playtesting you see, oh, does your perception of how this was going to play, does that match up with how it was really playing? There is joy in that. But ultimately, the reason why I want to make games is because why I want to do anything creative is because I want to do things that resonate with other people. And so by getting other people involved, by asking people their opinion, by getting feedback, I am more able to get something that resonates with people. I hope that makes sense. So yes, input from people, engagements, and like opinions and feedback and suggestions, this helps guide me towards something that not only I can be proud of making, but also everyone else will actually engage with. I hope that makes sense. I mean, do you think that opinions are brilliant? Do you agree that feedback is brilliant? If so, let me know why. And firstly, hello Yoda, it is super lovely to see you. And Corey, you know, even though I absolutely love games, I do not discriminate. Even if you do not play games, you're absolutely welcome here. And, you know, maybe it'll, I hope that I'll provide some food for thought. And please do feel free to jump in with any of your own questions or comments at any point. So, what I wanted to talk about today for episode 486 is my idea, collaboration, and playtesting, and making people feel valued, and even when ideas aren't used. Now, imagine you're playtesting a game, and lots of people share an idea. They're excited by this. I think when you've got, as a designer, you have to kind of say, this is the scope of what I'm doing. You have to set some parameters within the scope. It's all well and good saying, hey, I'm making a game. What kind of game do you think I should make? And if that's genuinely what your position is, then fair enough. But as soon as you've gotten something to the table, once you're playtesting something, it's likely that you're kind of focusing more on this game. Now, it might be that someone says, hey, you know what? This tiny aspect of your game, that thing is actually really good, but the rest, the other 90% of it, maybe get rid of it. And this, you know, we 10% expand that, and that could be even better. And maybe you're open to that, but you have to make it clear. So in a sense, it's incumbent upon both the person giving feedback and the person who's soliciting feedback to give a sense of the scope of what you're willing to change, what you're not willing to change, what is set in stone, what must be this way, and what you're actually looking for opinions on. Because it might be that, hey, this is a game, it's basically 95% there, I'm just going to tweak some certain numbers. If you don't like the style of the game, sorry, but that's it. But I'm really looking for opinions on whether this should be a 2 or a 3, or whether this should be a 1 or a 2. And that's a perfectly valid stance to take, in which case you might be asking people to play over and over until they've got a good idea of the balance of the game, of what feels strong and what feels weak. If you are at a point where it's like, well, it's early on, don't bother giving me any feedback on the graphic design or the art, because yeah, this is just I just did the art to make it as quickly as I can, because what I'm really testing right now is the mechanics, and that's also a viable position. It is incumbent upon you. It's incumbent to make that statement, to make it clear. It's incumbent upon anyone else as a playtester, obviously. And this expands beyond games. This expands whether it's, giving feedback to someone who's done some cleaning, or whether it's someone who's, you know, working for you, or if it's someone who's sung you a song or shared their poetry or whatever, or maybe someone's written a book and they're sharing it with you. And then, if you kind of have to ask, do you even want feedback? Quite often people don't. Quite often people do want that positive affirmation if you can give it to them. If you can say, hey, thanks, I really appreciated that the bath was actually super clean today. Thank you very much for doing that, because I didn't make the time to do it. You made the time to do it. Thank you very much. Now, yeah, then there's the other side of constructive criticism. Like, maybe if I ask, hey, why did you throw that sponge away? I thought that was my sponge. I was kind of using it. At that point, it's like, that might be a fair thing to say, but are you going to upset them? You need to, as if, now, some people are more touchy than others. I pride myself on being good at taking feedback, and I think that games have taught me this. I think that games have, because it's never about you. If someone says it's about a thing that you did, someone can say, hey, that thing that you did, that was actually kind of racist, or that thing that you did, that was kind of problematic, or that game that you made, that wasn't quite as fun as it could have been. Whatever it is, I think you need to take these things in stride. Do you know what I mean? And don't feel like it's about yourself. I mean, nothing about you is about you as a person. You are yourself, past and present, and also future. And your future self doesn't need to reflect your past self. I mean, is that me? I honestly don't know if I'm making sense to anybody, but yeah, feels like we are all transient beings. And there's an Irish phrase, I think, that says, oh, I've got a bit of sadness about me. You don't say I am sad, you say I've got a bit of sadness about me. So it's kind of saying this is a transient thing. This is an emotion that you're feeling, but it might pass. And by the same token, something that you did, that's something that you did. I'm sure I've done many things that have been less than ideal. There have been many things that I've done badly, but at a certain point, you need to kind of think, okay, this is just my game. This is just my actions, and I am not my actions. I'm not one single thing. And just says, yeah, it's a great attitude. No need to take things personally, but many people do. And then, yep, I feel like that's more kindness than I deserve. But thank you very much. My best wisdom. But yeah, I feel like that's one thing, that you have to be in a position, especially if you're putting yourself out there, if you're making creative things, if you're making creative work that you plan to share with the general public, you are kind of opening yourself up to criticism. I mean, I can't remember the exact thing, but someone on Board Game Geek who did not like card games that make people be silly, it was something like, oh, I hate card games that make people be silly for the sake of being silly, and this is the worst of that garbage. And they were saying that about either In a Bind or Yogi, I can't remember. And for a while, I was really unhappy about that. I feel like I was really distraught about that. And it kind of came to, I don't know how to put it. I think that it was, yeah, I was unhappy. And then I spoke to Charlie on the car, and then Charlie said, well, it's clearly not for them because they hate games about that. And, you know, if it's the worst of that garbage for them, that means that it's actually epitomizes what you're trying to do. And that's the thing as well. Like, whatever you're trying to do, whether it's a creative thing that you want people to love it and some people are going to hate it, but also any action worth doing, there's possibly going to be some controversy. I don't know. Like, there's going to be some people who don't like what you're doing, and that's fair, and listen to them, but you don't need to act upon them. Just says, asks where that might have come from. Well, and I think about my past, I think it might have come from one of my teachers, my piano teachers, who was super critical. I think it mainly came from submitting things to the internet. Like, once I started having games and submitting them to the internet, and once I was reviewing things on Newgrounds, that kind of really taught me to, you know, take criticism well. And once you're playtesting, because playtesting is all about sharing opinions and trying to make the thing better. Just says, people who are quite good at being assertive often also don't take things too personally. I got better at that when I became more assertive. We should self-reflect if we're asking other people to do that at times. Asking people to do what? To not take things personally? Not quite sure what you mean there. But yeah, so I shared this idea that I had of doing a Kickstarter with literally no idea of what game it might be, as an experiment, saying, okay, I'm allocating this 60-day period. And there was a lot of discussion about it on Twitter, on a Facebook group, and after a bit of chat, what I'm thinking is that at the start, maybe there's only one pledge level. Maybe you pay £1 and it's okay, for £1 you all get to print and play whatever comes up at the end, and also you get to give your inputs. And in the first week I would say, okay, what game do you think I should make? Here are some ideas. Or if you've got any of your own ideas, like, give me some ideas, and I'll spend a couple of days doing a brainstorm and exploring things. And then in the first week I'd explore things, I'd see what's working well. In the second week I'd try to settle down, do some more exploratory design. Third week starts, actually making the thing, vision design, maybe even make a prototype, playtest it, and then just keep playtesting and doing the art, so that by the end people are like, okay, this is exactly what's being made. And it might be even by day 30, it's like, okay, this is what's being made. And then the front page of the Kickstarter would almost be like a design document, and we would be working on that together. People raised some potential issues. People mentioned that maybe someone who pays more might feel like they have more power, and I'm going to make that clear. People might feel sad if they're not valued, and that's where I came into the whole idea of valuing people and making people feel valued even when their ideas aren't used. And how do you do that as someone who's taking the feedback? If someone says, hey, maybe you should have a card that means that you get rid of one of your other cards, and I'm making Yogi, and I know this will be a terrible thing, and I say, thank you very much for that idea. Yeah, I don't think that's right for this game, but thank you, and keep the ideas coming. Something like that. I think that's probably the best way to do it, because I do want to encourage feedback. I do want to encourage it, but there are certain things where I say, yes, this is outside of the scope of the game. And it might be that at a certain point I just try it and it's like, yeah, this is terrible, but in my own mind I don't need to try everything. Not everything needs to be tried, because as a game designer, what I'm trying to do is build up a mental model of this is how humans play, this is how things connect, and I should have more of an understanding of how certain rules can promote certain behaviors, because this is what I've been doing for many years. I mean, if someone can just come up with, that's not as good. And I mean, yeah, it might sound arrogant, but yeah, I'm better now than what I was 5 years ago. And even 5 years ago, I had more of an idea about In a Bind than someone who's only played it a few times, because I've got a deeper understanding of the project. I've seen it played many times. And so I understand things that maybe other people don't understand. So it's still incumbent upon me to be the guiding force, to listen to all that, to make it clear that I'm listening, and to say thank you, and to encourage this feedback. But ultimately, I don't need to listen to it. Yeah, I hope that makes sense. Jess says, if you point out that someone has done something that bothers you, you should be able to accept it when someone else says the same thing to you. That's true. You should know that that's okay, and it doesn't mean that anyone is a bad person. But if we're not brought up that way, and with good self-esteem around that, like if we've been dismissed a lot as children, it might be harder to self-reflect and to say how we feel or be assertive. That's interesting. So yes, being assertive in the interpersonal nature of saying, hey, this is a thing that bothers me, could you work on this a little bit? If I am okay at saying that to someone else, I am probably going to be accepting when people give me constructive criticism, is what Jess is saying here. And if I am always put down and I'm criticized, then maybe I don't. Yeah, this is absolutely agree. And sorry you've got a hangover, but yeah, I do agree with what you're saying. I think that it's an important part of being assertive, and being assertive not just in terms of criticizing other people and setting boundaries in real life and saying, no, I can't do that, or yes, I can do that, or hey, it's actually really bothers me when you do this. Could you, is there a possibility that this behavior could be changed? And maybe it can, maybe it can't. In the same sense, you need to be able to accept this from other people. And giving feedback about games is such a big part of that. Like when I came to London almost 10 years ago, I can't remember, was it 10 years ago now? Probably was. But I was taking feedback from Brett Gilbert and Matthew Dunstan and Gavin Birnbaum and other amazing people, and then learning this is how you give feedback. This is how you give feedback. You don't never say this is a bad game. Never say, I mean, God forbid you say you're a bad person for making this game. I mean, that's not what we ever kind of suggest at all. What we might suggest is, hey, this bit didn't work for me. This was a questionable decision. This is what I would suggest. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? This bit felt like it dragged on. This felt was boring. And it's like, this bit, it's not like even the game, let alone you. It's this bit of this game. And that's the thing. And yeah, now someone mentioned on the Facebook group that maybe if I started a big thing with all the people and said, okay, everyone, feel free to chip in ideas, that's problematic because it's designed by committee. And I want to make a distinction between design by committee and input. Just because I encourage everyone possible to give me input on all my projects, that does not mean that it's designed by committee. My games are very much made by me. Now, a game about wee whimsical creatures and trying to identify them after someone makes noises, that would not exist as it currently is if it had not been for Krys, if it had not been for Jessica Medringham, like a different Jess to the one who's talking just now, but Jessica Medringham. So it was Krys who said the sound of an animal that was kind of something that was meant to spark some motivation and inspiration. And it did inspire me. It made me think, oh, what if someone makes a noise and then other people are trying to recognize it? How would that work? And then I made a game and it was interesting. And then I tried it again. And Joanne was there and Kelly Lee was there and Jessica Medringham was there. And of those three, like a bunch of them said, oh, this is something that I would be interested in. I think a couple of them said, oh, you should keep the creatures black and white so that people can color them in. And that's why, in the end, the creatures are black and white. Now, I could have listened to, well, I did listen to it. And that's the distinction also I want to make. There's a difference between listening and accepting. I can't incorporate every suggestion, but I will listen to it all. I will consider it. If 1,000 people tell me, hey, Yogi, that really needs cards that tell you to drop the last instruction, well then, I'm going to listen. I'm going to take notes. I'm going to keep remembering each time it said, be okay, that's another person that said that. That's another person that said that. And eventually I might be like, okay, can I get some, why are you suggesting this? Why do you want this? And like each time I might try and drill down because I know in my own mind that that's not a good thing for the game. It pushes it away from an end point because the idea of the game is that it gets harder and harder and harder until you physically collapse. The cards fall down or you can't hold your position. For those who don't know Yogi, it's cards that say things like one finger touching nose, one finger touching ear, two hands touching, this card on the head, this card on your armpit, this card between two fingers, and you've still got to try and draw a card each time. And if someone's wanting a card that says you can get rid of one of your cards, even logistically, that's a bit challenging. And also it's taking it away from an ending. It's kind of getting rid of the escalation of the tension. And so I might ask those people, why do you want that? And by the time they've played it a couple of times, hopefully I'm able to have a bit more of a discussion. Maybe I'm able to drill down a little bit. And I am ready to listen. But if someone just says, that's what I want, well, there's not much. Like, as an extreme example, if someone says, oh, I wish there was a strategic decision in this game, well, that's not the kind of game it is. And I have to be the person who says, this is the kind of game it is. I appreciate all of you. I'm listening to all of you, but I have to distill this down. I have to be a curator. It's like a museum curator where you don't take all the works of the artist that you're showing off. You don't take all the works that match the vague theme that you've got going on in your museum. You pick and you choose, and it's the same. And for people who say, oh, won't it be problematic that you've got so many people giving you inputs? No, because I will listen and I will enjoy listening. I love having people engage. I love feedback. I love having those discussions. But it doesn't mean that I will incorporate it all. It will not be designed by committee, and that's just a distinction that I want to make. And Jess mentions that, yeah, some people don't know how to be assertive in a kind way. And game developers have to take lots of feedback. Yes, absolutely. And both in terms of the amount of playtesting that you do, and when you're playtesting with all other people, unless it's a solo game, you need other people to be incorporated, and those people are going to give you feedback. But also, partially as part of the process, it's essential. Pardon me. Partially as trying to make a good thing of any sort, whether it's music or illustration or anything. I mean, Malcolm Gladwell said you want 1,000 hours or 10,000 hours, whatever it is, with feedback. And that's the bit that people forget. The feedback is important. And yes, finally, of course, if you put your game into the world, once it's sold hundreds of thousands of copies, you are going to get some haters, you're going to get some lovers, you're going to get some people who are somewhere in the middle, and you will find out that, oh, this person played my game with this age. Oh, this person made this tweak. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, this person tried that. Oh, that's an interesting idea. Oh, these people tried the blank cards rather than adding their own rules on it. They called the blank cards just a free pass. That's an interesting idea. And those people really enjoyed that. So it's not reducing the, it's just like difficulty, oh, and difficult. And so that's really interesting. That could, and so maybe I get inspired, maybe I incorporate it, maybe I don't. But that's all stuff that I think that you need to be listening to, because if you want to make your stuff as good as possible, then the more feedback, the better. The more listening, the better. And it kind of irritates me when some game designers don't watch all the reviews. I'm not saying that reviews are gospel, of course they're not. Reviewers are as prone to being flawed and having wrong opinions as anyone else. But if I see someone who did a review, and this is a genuine example, and an interview, oh, they misinterpreted the rules, okay, then I know how to, I need to clarify that. If I see someone that was upset by someone that might give me feedback, feedback never ends, even when it's published, because Yogi is slightly different to In a Bind, not just because of it being plastic cards, but because 1.5 cards were changed. That half was my mistake, but the one card was because I saw people playing it, and even after I'd printed like 3,000 copies, when it came time for another company to do it, okay, we'll tweak it. And in the same notion, when it comes time to do a second edition of Kitty Cataclysm, I am going to slightly tweak it. What else did I want to talk about? I've talked about that sense of collaboration and audience input and ideas and playtesting. If you have any other questions about the Kickstarter idea with 0% input, then please feel free to ask. I think I've talked about the value of collaboration. I think I've talked about, making people feel... I think I've talked about what I had to talk about. So I'm going to start wrapping up at this point. As always, comments and questions are very welcome. But it is now over to you. What are you up to? You can share, but only if you want to. What are you doing? I like knowing. Whether it's fun and frivolous, whether it's super serious, whether it's something you want to do, whether it's something you have to do. Is there something you want to get done? Is there something you will do just for fun? Is there something you need? Type it in and I will read. So, Jess says, Jess is resting. I hope you have a lovely evening over in Thailand. Jess wants to do lots of things tomorrow. I hope that you have a wonderful day, and feel free to share or not as you might choose. Today, while I was doing yoga at 7 a.m., I was thinking, wow, I'm going to have another nap today. My head is pretty sore. But then I came back, and then I had a shower, and then I'm feeling, I am still pretty tired. I'm still not 100%. I'm still pretty tired. I might have a nap, but I'm feeling like life is good. I am aiming to do not too much. Maybe a bit of tidying, maybe a bit of packing. I will set up the stream for tomorrow and Wednesday, where I've got special guests, Tanya Floker tomorrow and Wednesday is Tim Fowers. I will tell people about that, so maybe more people come and join in. Other than that, yeah, just a day of generally taking it easy, and I am privileged that I am able to do that. And I do have to do a card sorting thing with my friend Liz, but yeah, generally packing, nothing else. So yeah, that's me. But yeah, and tomorrow morning I am hoping to do yoga again. What are you up to? Whatever you are up to, I hope that as you go on your way, you are able to take feedback from others. I hope that you're able to listen, even if you don't incorporate it. Like, listen, and then sometimes you can dismiss it. Like, some people are mean. Listen. But, if someone shouts horrible things at you, it's like, okay, they've shouted that. That's their issue. Well, I'm going to dismiss it. It doesn't mean that everything that's shouted at you has to be, acted upon. You need to think about, where is this feedback coming from? Where is this, is it coming from a place of love? Is it coming from a place of hate or fear? Is it that someone is confused and possibly just feels like a bit threatened by the fact that there's a trans person around? And so, but you need to be aware. You need to, I think, be aware. Like, when someone's, yeah, you need to be aware of what's going on. If anything, it'll help you keep safe. But yeah, this is getting outside of the realms of game design for sure. But as a, yeah, like, I don't want to really get into, I've suffered physical attacks and stuff, and obviously it doesn't mean that I then say, oh, they shouted at me for such and such, and then they attacked me, therefore I'm going to not do such and such. But it might make me think, okay, well, I need to be more vigilant, or sadly, this is the way the world is, whatever. But yeah, on a more lighter note, when was the last time you gave someone feedback? When was the last time you complimented someone? I mean, I'm going to say that, like, sometimes, does it count when I said, yeah, I agree with you, Jess? And I think it's that kind of interaction. It's kind of like saying, yes, Jess, I hear what you said, and then I'm going to try and rephrase it so we make sure that we're both on the same page. And thank you for that feedback. And like, after the yoga class, I was like, thank you for that. And when was the last time that you personally got feedback? I mean, it's, again, a very small thing, but I want to say that my small feedback was basically from Jess, who said, yes, it is making sense, and complimenting my things. And feedback doesn't have to be a big thing. Feedback doesn't have to be oh, how about this idea? When you're giving feedback, you might feel like, oh, I have to give an actual suggestion, or I have to be super specific. Sometimes just saying, I agree with that, or thank you, that can be enough feedback. So yeah, recap and wrap up before I finish up. Today I talked about an idea for a Kickstarter I had about doing a game, basically doing an extended 60-day game jam. So at the start, I have no idea what I'm making. Day one, I asked people, please put in all your ideas. Like day 2 or 3 or something, I do a live stream. Maybe I start a Kickstarter on Tuesday. Maybe I solicit ideas. Maybe Wednesday and Thursday I'm trying to make the game. Maybe Friday I go to take it to a playtest. That feels like a reasonable, plan of action. And yeah, then my whole idea is that by the end it would be like, okay, this is the game. We've made it all together. Yes, it's been me doing the legwork of the design. One thing that I didn't talk about, someone talked about ownership of ideas. They said, oh, if I'd done any work for the game, then I would want to be compensated. And I get that. There's definitely a question of, oh, if I give someone an idea for their book, I feel like I want some compensation, whether that's compensation monetarily or thank you or whatever. But do we need it? I'm not sure. Like, I feel like if you're giving feedback, again, I feel like it should be freely offered. If I say, I have had this happen in the past, like there's been a big company and they said, oh, could we pay you for some of your time? And I said, yes, how about for you? I will charge, I think I charge like £50 per hour and a minimum of £100. It's a big company. They could afford that easily. And they said, absolutely, here's our meeting. And then they asked for a bunch of feedback on a quiz game. Now, that company, would I have given them feedback for free? No, I wouldn't, because that's a big company and I'm not invested enough to want to, but like Yoda, when Yoda was making a game, I was giving feedback. Now, I appreciate if Yoda thanks me. Does Yoda have to? No, not really. I mean, if there's space, then obviously that's great, but it's not incumbent. And like Helvetic, I sat down, that's like a relatively small company. Like, it's a company that made Bandido and lots of little games in tiny little boxes. And one of the games called Misty, I played it, and there was some parts of it that was kind of hetero centric. So like basically you had boys and you had girls, and then if you matched boys and girls, you got bonus points. And I was like, that's a bit weird. I mean, why shouldn't boys and boys matching also give you bonus points? I mean, if you need two things that match, then have two things that really need each other, because to say that a boy and a girl could absolutely need each other, that's kind of problematic. Whereas if you say, okay, a plant and water, and if you got those together, then it's a beautiful flower. Okay, that makes sense, because yes, the plant needs the water and the sunshine. Okay, and then in the end, they've just got smiley faces. And yeah, Hardy said to me, oh, thank you very much for that feedback. I did change it because I didn't want to be homophobic potentially, and it didn't change the game at all. It was actually better this way. So great. Now, I am not mentioned. I did not get any money, but I still feel happy about what I did. I still feel happy that I was able to improve that game. I've got a copy. I think I might have traded for it, or like I didn't pay money for it. But the point is, it's a weird thing, ideas, because ideas by their own, I don't think are the key thing. It is the person who acts upon that idea. If I say to you, hey, how about making a hat, but the hat has a hole for your hair? It's a hat for people with long hair, but they want to have the ponytail come out. Maybe like the ponytail, maybe the hole is right on top. That could be fun. And see what you come up with. Maybe someone makes something based on that. Now, would I feel entitled to some of that? No. If they said, oh, let's do it's all about expectations. It's all about setting expectations. And I'm reminded of the Crazy Ex-Girlfriend song. After everything I did for you that you didn't ask for. After everything I did for you that you didn't ask for. The point is, like, you can't just do favors for people and then expect compensation. If you give feedback, sure, it comes from a place of love. You've put energy into it. It's a nice thing to do to say thank you. If it gets incorporated, it's up to the person to say, is it worth it for this project or not? I think it's always nice to say thank you. It's always nice to make sure that the person feels valued, but ultimately, whether it's incorporated or not, it's up to them. And either way, I don't think the feedback giver is entitled to anything that, yeah, hadn't been agreed on. I hope that sounds reasonable. As always, let me know what you think. Am I saying something that you disagree with? I'd love to hear about it. Do you have something extra to add on? Then go ahead. But for now, that's what I've been talking about. I also talked about yoga and sleeping and sunrise and warm beds. And if you want to check me out, I am Stuff by Bez everywhere. If you want to check out my streams, stuffbybez.com/streams, then go there. And tomorrow, I am talking with Tanya Floker about role-playing games. Role-playing games, normally you roll some dice and then you do some things and then you get the random choice and then, well, you get the choice and then the randomness and then things happen or don't happen. But sometimes you don't need those dice. Sometimes the resolution can be more like improv acting. That's what we're talking about tomorrow. And then on Wednesday, I'm going to have Tim Fowers on, and we will just be chatting about Tim Fowers, about making games, about word games, about anything that comes up. It will be like meeting Tim Fowers. For now, share and spread the word, and lots of love to everyone. That is basically the last thing that I like to say. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You are all wonderful. I see that the stream is going, which is a French thing. Maybe if you're watching on Twitch, then I might raid someone. Yeah, shall we raid the French people? For now, there is little left to do other than to say thank you, Jess and Corey and Yoda, for popping in here. Thank you, anyone else who's watching after the fact. And I hope you have a wonderful day. For now, let's go. And bye, 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 bye. This is the goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go through. Bye, 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 bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye bye, everyone. Bye bye. Bye. Bye.